A failed wannabe New Mexico state legislator who lost his race in November was arrested in connection with a series of drive-by shootings that were targeting the homes of Democratic officials. And surprise, surprise, he's a Trump-loving MAGA Republican. I'm Gabe Sanchez, and welcome to What Was That? Solomon Peña, the failed candidate from November's elections, was behind the politically motivated attacks in which he conspired with and paid 4 other men to shoot at the homes of 2 county commissioners and 2 state legislators. Albuquerque Police Chief Harold Medina described Peña as the mastermind behind this whole operation.
I believe that he is the mastermind that was behind this and that was organizing this.
I think calling Peña a mastermind is being very generous to the self-proclaimed MAGA king. Over the past 2 weeks, detectives have used ballistic evidence, text messages, searches on Apple Maps, and a statement from a confidential witness to build a case against Peña. So far, the charges against Peña are totaling 15 counts. Based on the fact that Peña's behavior became more aggressive and his intent was to cause harm, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets charged with attempted murder. So after a brief SWAT standoff, Peña was arrested at his condominium. Actually, it was more like this. For a guy that hired 4 men to potentially murder Democratic officials, Albuquerque PD sure treated him nicely, and one of the 4 men that Peña hired, Jose Trujillo, is now being prosecuted federally on drug trafficking and firearm charges. Hold on, there's more. After looking at Peña's campaign finances, Jose Trujillo was also one of the biggest donors to his campaign. And now, detectives are looking into whether Peña used drug money to fund his campaign after Jose Trujillo and Trujillo's mother, Melanie Griego, were his top donors. According to court records, Griego was recently living in a mobile home on the west side and getting rental assistance from Bernalillo County. Detectives learned through witness interviews related to the shooting investigation that Peña identified individuals to funnel contributions from an unknown source to his legislative campaign. Leave it to Republicans to be the shadiest politicians ever. And as you go through the campaign donor list, you begin to notice some undesirable characters, like cosplaying ghost hunter Michael Fletcher. In September 2020, during an event celebrating Breonna Taylor's life, Fletcher intentionally plowed through a crowd of people. Seems to be a favorite tactic amongst Trump-loving domestic terrorists. Luckily, no one was hit or hurt, but from what I gathered, Albuquerque PD did not charge Fletcher despite witnesses filing a report. Another name on the list of Peña's top donors is Jalapeno Corporation, the oil and gas company. This is important because the company's president is Harvey H. Jr., a wealthy and influential Republican in New Mexico. He previously served as the chair of the Republican Party of New Mexico as well as a national committeeman to the RNC. The Republican Party knew of Peña's past and just turned a blind eye. Kinda like how Republican leadership did with scarf thief and volleyball fraud George Santos. And much like Santos, Peña also has an unusual and frightening resume. In 2008, Peña was convicted for being part of a crew that carried out smash and grab schemes using stolen vehicles to smash into stores. And according to state records, Peña was convicted of 19 felonies, including burglary, larceny, contributing to the delinquency of a minor, and receiving stolen property. As a result, he spent almost 7 years in prison from May 2009 to March 2016, and was then placed on supervised probation until March 2021. His opponent, incumbent Democrat Miguel Garcia, challenged Peña's candidacy because of his felony conviction in the smash and grab scheme. However, a judge ruled Peña was allowed to stay on the ballot. Great call, Judge. Glad you put this domestic terrorist on the ballot. But beyond Peña's criminal behavior, his tweets are just as chaotic, ranging from derogatory insults to misogynistic slurs to claims of rigged elections to the deep state. And just like all of MAGA, the only deep state is the level of denial that Peña lives in. Like his incessant belief that his District 14 election was rigged. Let's just debunk this real quick. No Republican would have a chance in District 14 as it has a history of voting for Democrats by more than 75%. According to voter registration, only 16% of people who live in District 14 are Republican. The election results were 74% to 26%. He lost by more than 3,600 votes and every single precinct in District 14. Damn! The election wasn't rigged. Peña just lost. Bigly. Peña was so upset over losing that he actually visited the homes of the local Democratic leaders to complain the election was rigged and that it should not be certified. Back in November 2022, Peña went out looking for then County Commissioner Debbie O'Malley. However, he was unsuccessful as he ended up at her previous home.
Hi, my name's Solomon Peña. Can I speak with Debbie O'Malley?
She doesn't live here anymore.
Okay, well, the public record says she owns it. Do you know where she lives?
So after not getting the response he wanted from the Democratic officials, Peña resorted to drive-by shootings.
December 4th, several shots were fired at the home of Bernalillo County Commissioner Adrian Barboa. December 8th, same thing at the home of incoming House Speaker Javier Martinez. December 11th, more than a dozen shots fired at the home of then Bernalillo County Commissioner Debbie O'Malley. And January 3rd, more than a dozen shots fired at the home of State Senator Linda Lopez.
On the January 3rd shooting at State Representative Linda Lopez's home, 3 bullets went through her daughter's bedroom as the 10-year-old slept. I guess Republicans don't actually care about saving the children, especially when it comes to whining about losing their election. And then we learned that Peña did more than just pay these guys.
On the last shooting, we now have evidence too that Peña himself went on this shooting and actually pulled the trigger on at least one of the firearms that was used.
Wait, what was that?
And actually pulled the trigger on at least one of the firearms that was used.
As if hiring 4 men to shoot Democratic officials' homes wasn't enough, Peña actually went along for the final drive-by to participate. Peña even attempted to fire an AR-15 at Lopez's home, but it jammed, and as a result, it didn't fire correctly. About 40 minutes after the gunfire, and less than 5 miles away, a BCSO deputy arrested 21-year-old Jose Trujillo on a warrant after stopping him for having an expired registration. The car he was driving was registered to Peña. Deputies found more than 800 fentanyl-laced pills and 2 firearms inside the car. And recently, detectives executed a search warrant on the phone of 41-year-old Demetrio Trujillo, Jose Trujillo's father. Demetrio Trujillo was arrested last week on charges of receiving or transferring a stolen motor vehicle, possession of a controlled substance, and tampering with evidence. Peña had sent the home addresses for the 4 lawmakers to Demetrio Trujillo, who searched for it in Apple Maps and in some cases passed the information on to Jose Trujillo. According to a confidential witness who was with the group during the shooting at Barboa's, Martinez's, and Lopez's house, Demetrio Trujillo and 2 adult brothers were paid $500 to split between the 3 of them. $500 split between them probably doesn't even cover the cost of gas and ammunition, let alone the Whataburger meal that Jose Trujillo was eating in this photo. The witness also said that not only was Peña unhappy with the past bullet impacts in the homes, but he also didn't like that they happened so late at night while everyone was sleeping. Peña wanted them to be more aggressive, aim lower, and go around 8 p.m. to make sure people got shot. And thankfully, no one was injured in any of the shootings because these domestic terrorists clearly have stormtrooper aim. This domestic terrorism against Democrats is Trumpism 101. I mean, Republicans even said at CPAC,
"We are all domestic terrorists."
When you don't like the results of, let's say, an election, you just cry fraud and then resort to violence against the opposing party. You know, just like the Republicans did at the Capitol on January 6th. And it shouldn't surprise anyone that Peña was at the Capitol that day. He even tweeted a photo in November 2022 from his January 6th trip to DC. Though he claims he lost his phone at a Trump rally in July 2021. Which is weird since that just so happens to be the same time that the first January 6th rioter was sentenced to a felony charge. How convenient. But not to worry. Here are some photos of Peña that his fellow insurrectionists took near the Capitol on January 6th. Politically motivated violence has seen an uptick over the last 5 years against members of Congress, spiking tenfold from 2016 to 2021. Solomon Peña and his drive-by shootings are not unique in any way. They're just another product of Donald Trump's stochastic terrorism. Whether it's the brutal attack against Representative Nancy Pelosi's husband or the kidnapping plot against Michigan's Governor Gretchen Whitmer, Republican extremists are turning their online conspiracies and explosive rhetoric into real-world violence. And unfortunately, the attempted murder of a group of Democratic officials was the inevitable outcome of listening to an election-denying orange crybaby. And for anyone who is desperately trying to both sides this violence, you can just stop, because Republicans are the only ones who are attacking political figures, and their party's leadership is silent. Now, while some Democrats may fear running for office, many have seen this as more reason to hold office and fight for democracy. And to help emphasize that, here's Albuquerque's mayor, Tim Keller.
This type of radicalism is a threat to our nation, and it has made its way to our doorstep right here in Albuquerque, New Mexico. But I know here we are going to push back, and we will not allow this to cross the threshold.
Well, I'm Gabe Sanchez, and this has been What Was That?